The beast at our door. What comes to your mind when you hear the word beast? Although Webster's dictionary says the word applies to any four-legged animal, we tend to visualize something that's large and perhaps ferocious when we hear the word beast. The dictionary also applies the term to a person that's brutal or vile. In Daniel 7, the Lord showed the prophet four beasts that represented world empires. These included Babylon and the three that would follow after it. Applied to world kingdoms, the idea of beast signifies fierceness and the devouring of those in their path. What does this have to do with today, you ask? Daniel saw a future manifestation of the fourth beast that still awaits fulfillment. All the other empires that the Lord revealed to his prophet flourished for a time and then faded away, except for the final expression of the fourth one, which has not yet appeared. However, many believe it's forming right before our eyes. The fourth beast of Daniel 7. Daniel wrote about this fourth beast. After this, I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast, terrifying and dreadful and exceedingly strong. It had great iron teeth. It devoured and broke in pieces, and stamped what was left with its feet. It was different from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. Daniel 7:7. Scholars agree that this refers to the Roman Empire, which displayed the precise viciousness Daniel saw centuries before its arrival on the world scene. However, the appearance of the 10 horns on this beast, which the Lord later described as 10 kings in Daniel 7:24, remains an unfulfilled prophecy. The Roman Empire never existed with such a division. John, writing at the end of the 1st century A.D., also saw the fourth beast of Daniel 7 with these same 10 diadems, Revelation 13:1-18. The apostle witnessed further details of this coming world order. One of the horns of the beast gained control of it and assumed the identity of the beast. We know the personification of this beast as the Antichrist, the man of lawlessness, that Paul wrote about in 2 Thessalonians 2:1-10. He will demand that everyone in the world worship him under penalty of death for those who refuse, Revelation 13:15. The world has yet to see the emergence of this beast with its 10 rulers, but we know it will happen, perhaps soon. Many rich and powerful forces in our world are working relentlessly to create a new world order that has all the characteristics of this last beast. The Great Reset. The powers behind the World Economic Forum refer to this new world order as the Great Reset. It sounds far less frightening than the totalitarian government they plan to impose on the world. Why do many students of prophecy believe that the Great Reset will lead to the final form of this fourth beast? It has all the characteristics of a regime that will ruthlessly dominate the world in the near future. Let's start with the quote below from the Fox Business website concerning World Economic Forum's meeting in June 2020. The purpose of the Great Reset isn't merely to enact policies that would lead to additional wealth redistribution, but rather to completely overhaul the world's existing structures and institutions. Among other things, Schwab has said of the Great Reset, the world must act jointly and swiftly to revamp all aspects of our societies and economies, from education to social contracts and working conditions. We're still in the earliest phase of the Great Reset. The full plan won't be rolled out until January of 2021, when the World Economic Forum will host its annual meeting in Davos. But the framework of the plan is clear. By combining many of the money printing strategies endorsed by modern monetary theory economists with global Green New Deal-like policies and corporate cronyism, the elites at the World Economic Forum can effectively control economic activity on a scale that has never been achieved. The words effectively control economic activity sound remarkably similar to the words of Revelation 13, which describe how the beast, the Antichrist, will control all the buying and selling worldwide. The glowing descriptions of the Great Reset that one reads throughout the World Economic Forum's website make this coming New World Order sound wonderful. The utopian answer to all the problems of the world. We see such optimism in this quote from the Emerging Europe website. Antonio Guterres, the Secretary General of the United Nations, called the Great Reset a welcome recognition that this human tragedy must be a wake-up call. We must build more equal, inclusive, sustainable economies and societies that are more resilient in the face of pandemics, climate change, and many other global changes we face. It sounds wonderful until one lifts up the hood to examine the details of the Great Reset. There we find the United Nations Agenda 2030 and the much-hyped New Green Deal in the United States. Both of these programs place the world and the United States under a Marxist regime that will exercise total control of everyone. The objective of the left is communism, which the goals of these two programs clearly reveal. The totalitarian nature of these programs is nothing less than slavery. The beast at our door. As a longtime student of prophecy, I have taught about the coming kingdom of the Antichrist for several decades. Even so, I confess a bit of shock as I watched the beast of Daniel 7 and Revelation 13 openly discussed and planned by rich and powerful forces in our world. Peter Koenig, a secular writer, recently wrote an article about the Great Reset entitled "The Global Reset Unplugged: The Deep State." Though not for the faint of heart, I recommend reading it. The quote below comes from the introduction of his piece. Imagine you are living in a world that you are told is a democracy, and you may even believe it. But in fact, your life and fate are in the hands of a few ultra-rich, ultra-powerful, and ultra-inhuman oligarchs. They may be called deep state or simply the beast, or anything else obscure or untraceable. It doesn't matter. They are less than the 0.0001%. For lack of a better expression, let's call them now obscure individuals. These obscure individuals who pretend running our world have never been elected. We don't need to name them. You will figure out who they are and why they are famous, and some of them totally invisible. They have created structures or organisms without any legal format. They are fully out of international legality. They are a forefront for the beast. Maybe they are several competing beasts, but they have the same objective: a new or one world order, NWO or OWO. These obscure individuals, Koenig later tells us, lead the World Economic Forum and have co-opted the UN to do their bidding. One might call these individuals opportunistic, but that's not totally accurate. The COVID-19 pandemic did not surprise the elite of the world. Dr. Fauci told us it was coming back in 2017. On October 18th of 2019, these obscure individuals held Event 201, which foreshadowed the COVID-19 outbreak with far too much specificity for one to consider the virus of 2020 unrelated to Event 201. Here's a quote from its website. The Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security, in partnership with the World Economic Forum and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, hosted Event 201, a high-level pandemic exercise on October 18th of 2019 in New York, New York. The exercise illustrated areas where public and private partnership will be necessary during the response to a severe pandemic in order to diminish large-scale economic and societal consequences.
It began in healthy-looking pigs, months, perhaps years ago. A new coronavirus spread silently within herds. Gradually, farmers started getting sick. Infected people got a respiratory illness with symptoms ranging from mild flu-like signs to severe pneumonia. The sickest required intensive care. Many died. Experts agree, unless it is quickly controlled, it could lead to a severe pandemic, an outbreak that circles the globe and affects people everywhere.
The mission of the Pandemic Emergency Board is to provide recommendations to deal with the major global challenges arising in response to an unfolding pandemic. The board is comprised of highly experienced leaders from business, public health, and civil society.
We could be looking at double the number of cases in 1 week and 16 times as many in a month if we are not able to stop the spread. That would be on the order of 500,000 cases, and it would continue to rise exponentially. In 3 months, we could be approaching 10 million cases.
We're at the start of what's looking like it will be a severe pandemic. And there are problems emerging that can only be solved by global business and governments working together.
Some believe Event 201 was nothing less than a planning session for COVID-19. I am one of them. The timing and matters discussed at this gathering track far too closely with COVID-19 for one to consider it a mere coincidence. The virus did not catch these obscure individuals by surprise. They were well positioned to use the media to promote their far-reaching ambitions. Peter Koenig wrote this about the role of COVID-19 in advancing the agenda of the elite. We have become enslaved to the beast. The beast calls the shots on boom or bust of our economies, on who should be shackled by debt, when and where a pandemic should break out, and on the conditions of surviving the pandemic, for example, social confinement. And to top it all off, the instruments the beast uses, very cleverly, are a tiny, tiny invisible enemy called a virus and a huge but also invisible monster called fear. That keeps us off the street, off reunions with our friends, and off our social entertainment, theater, sports, or a picnic in the park. Soon the beast will decide who will live and who will die, literally, if we let it. This may not be far away. Another wave of pandemic and people may beg, yell, and scream for a vaccine, for their death knell, and for the super bonanza of Big Pharma, and towards the objectives of the eugenicists blatantly roaming the world. There is still time to collectively say no, collectively and solidarity. I will admit it's not easy reading about the demonic, sinister, and deadly motives of those who seek to enslave the world's population in such a way. Despite the warnings, many remain in delusion, believing this time Marxism will somehow lead to the long-awaited utopia. They remain blissfully ignorant of the death and destruction that await them once they open the door to the beast. The beast is exceedingly dangerous. President Donald Trump on August 6, 2020, made these ominous comments about how his latest executive order cut profits for the middleman in the pharmaceutical industry. So I have a lot of enemies out there. This may be the last time you will see me for a while. I have a lot of very rich enemies, but they are not happy with what I am doing. So far, he has remained in the public eye. Why do I quote these words from the president? At the present time, he stands directly in the way of the beast. The exceedingly rich globalists and elite, aka obscure individuals, need a weakened and cooperative United States to implement their plans for the Great Reset. President Trump recognizes the exceedingly dangerous nature of this group and the significant threat they pose to his future as well as that of the United States. The president also understands the willingness of these powerful, obscure individuals to do all it takes to bring about the Great Reset. We've already seen their willingness to create damaging fake news stories about him, destroy the lives of tens of millions of people by shutting down state economies, and wreak havoc on many more through rioting and lawlessness. They will not stop until they enslave every person on the planet. Justin Haskins, writing for The Hill, issued this warning concerning this group. For those of us who support free markets, the Great Reset is nothing short of terrifying. Our current crony capitalist system has many flaws, to be sure, But granting more power to the government agents who created that crony system and eroding property rights is not the best way forward. America is the world's most powerful, prosperous nation precisely because of the very market principles the Great Reset supporters loathe, not in spite of them. Although these obscure individuals represent extreme danger to the world, we possess a hopeful future as believers. We are so close. The 7-year tribulation has not yet started, yet we see so many indicators today of what the book of Revelation tells us life will be like during these years. It's now possible for one man, the Antichrist, to control the buying and selling of everyone in the world. The Revelation 13 Mark of the Beast is well on its way to becoming a reality. All these things tell us the rapture of the church must happen soon. The Antichrist, who will eventually personify the final form of the fourth beast, cannot take control of the coming world government, the beast, until the rapture. That is the clear message of 2 Thessalonians 2, 1-11. I would like to think that the November election in the United States will delay the efforts of these obscure individuals and their plans for the Great Reset. But I have my doubts. If President Trump wins re-election, we may see the worst violence in America since the Civil War. After 2016, the attempted coup was political. This time, the coup will likely be violent and bloody. John Kerry recently stated that a Trump victory will lead to a revolution. If Trump loses, the left will act with great speed to subject the United States to the Marxist demands of the elite and powerful forces of the world. Our constitutional rights, starting with freedom of religion, will disappear in a heartbeat. After that, the world will see 10 horns or 10 rulers of this coming world order, of which we do not yet know the exact details of this future alignment. The day and hour of the Lord's return for us will remain a mystery. The signs, however, tell us this is most certainly the season of His return for us. They tell us it's time to watch with much intensity.